Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Please let me know if you can't hear me. And I'm just going to go ahead and start. This is part 2 with the survival series that I was doing. Okay. Welcome, Atif and Shaka. I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name right, but please let me know, everyone, if you cannot hear me. I'm broadcasting on Instagram and YouTube. I'm going to look at my notes. I didn't go over these this morning. And I know we left off at food. We were talking about food last time. So I actually wanted to add something to the food step. So when we were talking about storing food, and we were talking about possibly using hydroponics, growing indoor root vegetables, storing canned foods, large bags of rice, flour, dehydrated potatoes, beans, things like that. Thank you, you guys. I'm fine, thank you. And okay, you can watch the video after work. That's fine. It's going to be recorded. It probably won't be posted for at least 16 hours, though. It takes YouTube a long time to post the video. So getting back to the topic of food storage, right? Being prepped with food. If you don't have land to grow your own food on, and let's say you live in an apartment, you can start storing food and growing food indoors, okay? And there are ways to do that. You can check the links in the description below in part 1. I do have a lot of information in there, and some of the information that I put in there is about indoor food, okay? But here's the thing I wanted to add to that, okay? So right now, we cannot buy groceries without having a mask on, or they won't let us enter to buy food, right? We cannot buy any food. We cannot buy any supplies unless we have our face covered. But here's the thing, you guys. If you think that you can take your time saving food and learning how to grow food inside, think again, because here's the deal. They have this forced, or they're trying to force immunizations on the entire world, okay? And you and I, as believers, and all the people of all faiths that are practicing, they are not going to want to receive this immunization. Also, people that are non-believers that are into holistic lifestyles and health and things like that are not going to want to take these vaccines. So here's the thing. If they decide that they want to force everyone anyway, what they can do is they can prevent us from entering shopping centers, grocery stores, all of that, unless we have an immunization card proving that we've had a vaccine. Well, that cuts you off of your food supply, you guys. So then if you're not prepared, what are you going to do? Really, think about that. If you don't have your food supply prepared, if you don't have food, how are you going to get the food without being forced into vaccination? That's a good question, right? So I think you better think long and hard about, do I have enough food to get me through this? Now, I know that food's expensive and sometimes space is scarce. So in part number 1, I talked about land sharing, families sharing, paying people to store your food in their space if they have the space, and sharing the food with them, offering to share the food with them. Start, collecting foods that are most necessary now, and then add the more flavorful things, smaller things later. Okay. For example, flour and rice and beans, right? Those are not that expensive, and you can buy them in bulk, large bags, for fairly cheap. So stock up on those first, okay? And then start adding the things later that you like. For example, more spices, bouillon, dried vegetables, dried fruits, canned vegetables, canned meats, things like that, right? Chocolate, stuff like that can be added later. You don't want to be stuck in a position where you can't get food or you have to get vaccinated, right? And the whole vaccination thing is ridiculous anyway, because if vaccinations work and the people that are afraid of it and they want to get vaccinated, why are they afraid of the people that didn't get vaccinated? If the vaccines work, then they don't have to be afraid of someone who has not been vaccinated, right? I mean, that's just common sense. And we've never had any type of pandemic or any type of illness before in history where the whole planet had to be immunized and then tracked, right? And then have to prove it with a card, or not be able to have freedom of movement, not be able to travel, all of that stuff, right? I'm going to take a peek at your chats real quick. David King says, I guess you can get your supplies by home delivery. Maybe. Maybe not. Maybe they won't deliver unless you have the card. But that's a good point. Maybe they will. I don't know. What if you live in an area where they don't drop off food? What if you're just outside of their delivery area? There's all kinds of things to think about, right? And I'm not trying to scare anybody. I'm just trying to help you get prepared, because if this does happen and you don't want to be vaccinated, or you're worried about it and you want to wait to see what happens with the people that have been vaccinated, then you might want to take some precautionary measures, right? And on top of that, many scientists, politicians, many people all over are predicting that we're going to have famine. There's not going to be enough food. I myself am predicting this, okay? I'm saying from the things that I'm learning and my own common sense and my time on the planet here, I am predicting that we are not going to have enough food, right? So please, it's not going to hurt you to, store a lot of food, because you can always use it. You start eating it, right? Okay. So I wanted to, kind of add that on there. So you can do some research to figure out how to grow your own food indoors. What are the best foods to store? Things like that. Shop around by phone and find out who has the best prices, right? For example, if one store sells a 25-pound bag of flour for $6, but another store sells the exact same thing for $15, then it makes more sense to go to the store with the cheaper price, and that way you can get more supplies for your money, right? So be smart and call around to all the stores and find out what their prices are, okay? I'm going to move down to personal safety now, okay? So personal safety, there are many groups across the world, more so in some countries, like my country, the UK and Canada, where people are banding together to form survival groups. And sometimes they're called preppers, like a prepper group, right? And so these are people that are just sharing information with each other, helping each other, and pretty much are supporting each other as a online community and a lot of times a physical community, if you can find them close enough in your area, to where you have meetings, you discuss things online, you share ideas for preparing for, you know, bad times, right? So these are survival groups, survivalists, preppers, right? It doesn't hurt to join a group. It can just increase your knowledge. I'm going to take a quick peek at the chat on YouTube. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go on to the next topic. Thank you for the hearts, you guys. Thanks for being here, everyone. Let's see here. Oh, okay. So I'm just checking my notes here, and so it might be a good idea to have some books on hand, some paper books, in case for whatever reason you no longer have access to the internet, right? You may be forced out of the internet. Who knows? Books on biology, human biology, medical books, right? Some basic things that help you in case of an emergency or illness, or maybe someone in your family is having a problem and maybe you can't take them to the doctor anymore without having a card, without being numbered. Or, we talked earlier about the microchip that they're putting into people's hands right now. So there are 15,000 people right now that have been microchipped in their bodies through their hands. And we have Elon Musk, who has the brain chip that he wants to put into human beings, okay? All this stuff is real, you guys. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is a conspiracy fact, okay? These are all facts. And sometimes things creep up on you silently and slowly, and then all of a sudden they're right there in your face and you don't know what to do about it. Okay, so I'm trying to help you right now. Get medical books, get books on herbalism, so they can figure out how to make some of your own medicines if you need to. Figure out what natural plants are around you in your area, okay? And there's always going to be people in your area all over the world that know about herbalist type medicine, naturopath type medicines, right? And those are good to know. At least have the basics of those, okay? Have some different supplies on hand in case you need, to bandage somebody or to do sutures if someone gets a bad cut. There are many things to think about when preparing to protect yourself in these times. Now, we all know that there are many strange things happening in the world right now, and there are many strange, conspiracy theories, but a lot of times a conspiracy theory is really just a conspiracy fact, right? So think about that. And you can do your own research on things. You don't have to just follow what someone else says. Never really trust all the media that you look at, Try to do your own research. But when you're doing your own research, stay away from biased, controlling search engines like Google or Facebook or TikTok, right? Because they squash out people who are telling the truth. They silence people that are telling the most important secrets, right? You won't get them there. You'll have to look at different places. I don't know how safe Ecosia is as far as that goes, but I do know that it's owned by somebody in Switzerland and it's not connected to Google in any way or Facebook in any way. So ecosia.org. Okay. Go on the Tor. All right. You can do that. That way your internet gets routed through different countries, right? So people can't track you or figure out what you're doing. Okay. More on personal safety. Now, I'm really not one for weapons, but if it makes you feel safer, you may want to have something. If you can't afford something more expensive, or you can't access it in your part of the world, then make them. You can make them. That's what they did before in the ancient times when there were no stores. They made their own. Now, I'm not going to tell you where you can find these places online to where you can build your own or, fashion your own, but you certainly can. And it's not hard to find. You can do a little search and find it. Okay. I am going to go to the next topic on our 12-step, might even be 13 steps. Okay. All right. Imain, is that your name? I'm not trying to scare people. I'm trying to help people get prepared in case. What's really scary is not being prepared and then having something really big happen. Okay? And if you don't like what I'm talking about, you're free to go to another channel. I have no problem with that. Okay? The people that are here want to have some advice on how to get prepared in case we have a serious problem, like famine or forced immunization on the entire planet and microchipping and all that kind of thing, because that's real. Okay? So, home safety. All right, keeping your home protected. You can do the best you can. Making sure that you have alternate sources of energy if possible. For example, solar energy, wood burning, oil burning, that type of thing. So finding out what your options are. For example, let's say tomorrow your electricity was gone and you had to figure out, how would I heat my home? How would I cool my home? How would I run my things? How would I do that? Because if that does happen, you need to be prepared already. Because if you get caught off guard, what are you going to do then? Right? It's important to be prepared. So figure out what your options are in your area. Okay? Having secure doors and windows. Maybe having, a certain area of the house that's extra protected that you can go into if you need to, right? Emergency exit, or more than one emergency exit, right? Knowing that even if you can't drive your vehicle to get away from a danger, that you can walk, right? Many people, many immigrants that have been forced out of their homes and their countries, they walked, right? They walked at night, quietly, right? If you find yourself in a situation where you're afraid and you don't have any options and you feel like you need to get out of there, you can realize that you can walk, okay? And actually, I was doing a little kind of an experiment yesterday where I was trying to figure out how long would it take for my family members in Vancouver, Canada, to walk out to my property here. And so I calculated the distance per how long it takes a person walking at normal pace, which if you walk at normal pace, you can get about 3 miles. And I don't know how much that is in kilometers, so sorry about that. But so in estimating how long it would take my family to arrive where I am, if they needed to, it would take 6.5 weeks, okay, of walking about 8 hours a day with breaks, things like that. But that's how long it would take. Now, I myself have walked across part of this country because a long time ago, when I was in my late 20s, I decided to walk with the Native American Indians on the Link Walk for Justice to free Leonard Peltier. Okay, so I walked with the Native Americans. I joined them in Roanoke, Virginia, and I walked with them to Washington, D.C. And it took us 2 weeks. Okay, so I walked across the country, at least part of the country, and it took me 2 weeks, and it was no big deal. It really wasn't. I didn't have a problem. And in fact, it was kind of nice. We took showers in waterfalls and things like that, and baths in lakes and streams. We had someone with us that did the cooking. It was nice. Okay, so on to the next one, which is education. Okay, education. Know your regional rights, okay? Know your laws and how to exercise them, at least the most important ones when it comes to your own personal safety and your own human rights and your own freedom of speech in your own area of the world. Find out what those are. Find out how to stand up for your rights if you need to, okay? Find out how to exercise those. Sometimes it's better to go to court than it is to stand down, right? Sometimes it's better to say, no, I'm not going to let you do this to me, or I'm not going to let you do this to my family, and stand your ground and get arrested than it is to back down, okay? You can survive it. You can survive it, you guys. You're not going to cease to exist unless somebody, kills you, right? You can get through it. You can manage it, right? Learn survival skills in your area. Learn about your local waterways and where they are. Learn about, what are your local plants, what's edible, what's not, and teach your whole family. Also, it might not hurt to figure out what type of shelter you could make for yourself if you needed to, right? Now, there are certain ways that you need to survive if you're in a desert, right? And a desert sandstorm hits. Somebody in North America wouldn't know how to survive a sandstorm. I believe you go behind a rock and you put covering over your face and you go like this or something like that until the sandstorm ends. You protect your head and your face. And if you're in North America and you live in a very cold climate like I'm living in right now, somebody from the desert wouldn't know how to survive that, right? So our temperatures go down to sometimes 60 below zero Fahrenheit, right? That's the same as the Antarctic. I actually went ice fishing one time, you guys. I went ice fishing and I caught a huge pike and I tossed it outside, right? Because we were in a hut on the river on the ice. We had a little hut with a little, wood burning stove in there to keep us warm. And I tossed the fish outside. It froze instantly. Instantly. Within 1 minute, that fish was frozen solid. Okay? And I thought it was funny at the time. I was just, I went out there and was playing with it like it was a sword or something like that. But I'm just telling you, I know how to survive in this kind of weather. I actually slept outside in 40 degrees before with my cat in a sleeping bag when I was 14 years old. It was kind of uncomfortable, actually, but I'm used to colder temperatures. My ancestors are from the cold. We're from the ice countries, So, knowing how to survive, being educated on how to survive in your area, right? What if you had to leave your home? What if you were going to be forced into some type of really bad situation where you had to just leave? If you have to leave, then you have to know how to survive, right? On foot. Okay? All right, let's talk more about privacy. I think we talked a little bit about it in part 1, but you can actually do the best you can to make privacy or to make your privacy better by going through your electronics and shutting off tracking features like location tracking for different apps. You can cover your electronics with a copper fabric that stops EMF and stops the signals from coming through. I right now put a Band-Aid over my microphone and my webcam when I have my computer turned off, but I'm going to go to higher steps and cover everything with the copper cloth. And you can buy that copper cloth online. There are also different things you can do. You can make yourself a lead-lined box, but you want to be careful if you're touching lead. You know, you don't really want to be messing around too much with lead. Things like that. I will tell you something about privacy. So really, no matter how hard we try to keep our privacy, and no matter what we do to try to block different corporations and governments and things like that from getting our information and finding out what we're doing all the time, because all of that stuff is stored in huge computers. I'll give you one example. Okay, a long time ago, I think it was, let's see what year it was. I think it was 2002, you guys. I asked somebody in my family to do a check on somebody that I was involved with. And so that person got me information from the Choice Point computers from the CIA. So I know that sounds a little weird, but you know, I do have family members in those areas that have access. So they gave me the report on this person. And so I'm looking through it, and it's like this thick, okay? And let me just tell you, this was way before we had all this Google interference and all of this, you know, nonsense with the cell phones and the tracking and everything. This was 2002, you guys, 2002. This report had every single thing on this person that you could possibly imagine. I knew every name and address and things about the neighbors from a 2-block radius. Everything. Okay, and I was able to go through this report, and it took me a week. It took me a week to go through the report, and I'm really good at spotting patterns and, you know, making connections with things. So I spent a whole week on it, and I went over it again and again and again and again until I found an offshore bank account in Guam. I found relatives in Colorado. I found aliases and all kinds of other things, okay? I found the information that I needed on this person, all right? And this came from one of our government computers before we had all of this, before we had smartphones, before we had all of these search engines going through our information and our emails and things constantly. We can only do so much to protect our privacy, but what we can do is make it a little bit more difficult for them to get in and get it, right? Give them less. We can give them less, okay? Transportation. Let me talk to you about transportation, okay? So, you know, right now, it's already kind of difficult to be able to travel. So even some people can't travel, you know, to all the areas in their own country right now. In the United States, and that's where I am, I can travel throughout the United States. Most countries are closed off to me right now, except for around 24 countries. And those 24 countries are the most dangerous countries, the countries that people really don't want to go to, right? So they probably figured, well, we don't need to close those off because there aren't going to be too many people going there. And if they do, well, travel at your own risk, right? Like Honduras, the murder capital of the world. That one's open. Anyway, let's talk about travel, right? There are many people that are really, really upset because they're feeling like if they don't by force take this immunization, And more than one immunization, by the way. I think they want you to take 2, and they want you to be tracked, and they want you to start carrying around a card with a number on it, right? Which is only like step 2. Step 1 is the mask. Step 2, immunizing people, microchipping people, all that kind of thing. Basic income, so that you're dependent on the government for everything, and you do as they say, and they have control over you, right? So if you don't want to play along with whatever they tell you, then you can't have your basic income. We're not going to give you any money to live, right? So let's say that you can't travel outside of your country anymore because you said, no, I won't let you vaccinate me and my kids. It's not going to happen. So you're already going through a hard time, maybe a dangerous time. Maybe you want to get out of there. How are you going to do it? Going to be able to get out of your country? Maybe. I don't know, but I'll give you a couple of tips. Now, many immigrants, what they do is, if they come in illegally to another country, is they get on the oceans, get on the seas, right? Because it's easier to get on a ship. It's not the same as being on land and trying to travel over land, right? You're traveling by sea. You're traveling, on the ocean waves. And there are many, many boats. There are sailboats. There are motorboats. There are large ships. There are small ships, a lot of private sailors. Right now, you guys, if it was me and I wanted to go to another country, even right now, with all of the 26 being closed, I could do that. And here's how I could do that. I have joined mariners groups, all right? There are mariners groups, and they are all over the world. And wherever those captains are, whether it's a small ship or a medium ship or a large ship, they will take on crew, okay? You don't need any experience. They will take on crew, no immunization required, just to be able to help them sail or do whatever, whether that's helping cook meals for the rest of the crew, helping navigate the waters, just keeping a lookout for pirates during, certain areas. Whatever it is, you can do it. They have openings all the time. I get emails constantly saying, hey, we got a few more ships for you today. Do you want to take any of them? I said, maybe I might go in January, on the mariners groups, but I get emails all the time right now. I mean, literally, there are people all over saying, hey, can you pick me up in India? Can you pick me up in, Oman? Can you pick me up in, the UK, wherever, or I'm ready to go. I need a ship, or I need to go. I'm parked here. I'm off the coast of Nova Scotia, Canada, or I'm out in wherever. All right. You can leave by using the seas. Okay. Private pilot. Okay. Private pilot. You might not be able to get on a big airliner, but you can probably hire a pilot. Now, that might sound expensive, but it's really not. It sometimes costs less to have a private plane, a small Cessna 150, which I fly, by the way. I haven't flown in a long time, but I know how to fly a Cessna. They don't cost that much money to fly them, all right? You can get a private pilot, depending on how far you need to go, and make a deal with them, okay? That's another way to get out, right? When you can't get on, one of those big airliners, you can't go on, maybe you can't get on a train. Maybe you can't even get a rental car. But you can find a private pilot. You can find a captain of a ship. Okay? So these are just some ideas for you guys, all right? Here's another thing, okay? Have paper maps. Don't depend on the internet for everything. Because if you lose your internet for whatever reason, or your phone breaks and you can't get another one or whatever, you need to have information that you can carry and look at with you that's not stored on your phone. Have emergency information for family members and things like that, and routes off of your phone, right? Have paper maps. If you can't buy paper maps in your area anymore, print them out. Print them out and keep them. Paper maps. Because what if you do need to drive away or walk away? How are you going to find your way without cell phone navigation and people tracking you and knowing where you're going? And, your cell phone is your biggest tracker right now, right? Once they put a microchip in you, they can track you anywhere without a phone. But right now, if you don't have your phone with you, you just grab a paper map. Nobody can track you. Nobody knows where you are. You could disappear. Okay? All right. Well, and of course, traveling by night is probably best too if you're going to do something like that and if you're in danger. But I think that was the last one on my list. So that was the last one on my list for my 12 steps. I'm sure I'll be thinking of some more things later for everybody and adding things at a different time. But I think I pretty much covered most of it, covered the basics. So I'm going to look through some of the chat right now and maybe answer some questions. So I'm going to start with YouTube. Sahib says, do you work on these things yourself? Yeah, I work on everything myself. And you can do that too. I mean, you're capable. You have 2 eyes, 2 hands, 2 legs, and a brain. That's all you need. And then Imain says, I understand you want to prepare. I want everybody to prepare. I don't want to see anybody in a bad situation where they're afraid and fighting for their safety in their life and scared for their kids. Okay? Me, that's secondary. Okay? Let's see. Vasi says, how will you get your medicines if they make being vaccinated compulsory? Weapons are basically for your safety. Yeah, you may not be able to get your medicines if they make vaccines mandatory. So you need to think about that now. You need to figure out what medicines you need, how you might get them, and if you can't get them anymore, where do they come from? How are they made? What plants do they come from? You can do your own investigating on that, your own research. You can talk to a homeopathic doctor. You can search online, because a lot of our medicines come from plants. They come from trees and seeds. Okay, that information is kept from us pretty much because the big pharmacies make all the money using them, but that's where they come from. I mean, we have ancient Chinese medicine, we have ancient Indian medicine, we've got Native American medicine. They all use plants, native local plants, right? So you would need to find out what medicines you would need, and how to get them or prepare them, or find some other way. Fassi says, these things are happening all over the world. They are going to force vaccines no matter your country, just like the masks. If you don't wear it, people think you're crazy and government imposes fine. Yeah, well, the masks are kind of different from the vaccines and the microchipping, right? Because then we're talking about the possibility of having something put inside of our bodies that can either do us harm or take our freedoms completely away, or maybe even control us in a sense, or maybe even kill us at a certain point, right? So that's kind of different from wearing a mask. But I think, we're headed in that direction. And so that's the main reason I wanted to put this video out here, because there are many people that will buckle under that pressure and they'll get the vaccine or the microchip in the hand and things like that. But other people need to have the information, whatever information that they can get to help them with their best chances of avoiding that. So that's what I'm trying to do. Okay, so Cameron says, what skills should people learn to survive? I mean, like harvesting. So take advantage of the fact that we do have some good information on the internet right now that you can utilize. I wouldn't take too long about that. Learning how to do hydroponics, which is growing food indoors, storing food. If you have your own land, go out and help a farmer. Go out and help someone that does harvesting, grows things and harvests on their own land to figure out how they do it. Donate some of your time. Give them your work in exchange for learning how to do it correctly. I mean, that would be my advice. I mean, everybody has some time off, even if they work a job. If you went out and talked to a farmer or somebody like that and you said, hey, I want to come out and help you. I want to work out here in exchange for learning how to grow and harvest and be able to be self-sufficient. Can I come out sometime on the weekend? Like maybe donate 6 hours of my time on Saturday or a whole day on Saturday, something like that, right? Sahib says, how much time do you study daily? I study things most of the day, every day, because that's just how I am. I was in university for 14 years. I have multiple degrees. That's just the way my brain works. I really don't watch movies and things like that. I just research stuff. Wa alaikum salam. Let's see. Imain says, do you really have such a draconic government? It's, that's really complicated. And this is happening all over the world right now. So it's a concentrated, covert effort from beings that maybe we don't know exactly who they really are, right? I'm going to go up through the text to see if I missed anything. Okay, let me see if I can figure out the text on here. So, salam alaikum, Beskabasa. I can't pronounce that. I'm so sorry. Wa alaikum salam, Muhaddad. Oh my gosh. Some of these names are really complicated for my American tongue. Fatima and Rafiq, and known for Eval Life, and Obashala, Ijam Ahmed. Okay, sorry, I'm having trouble pronouncing people's names, but anyway, I think I've covered all that I'm going to cover for today. I am planning on making a video. This is not going to be a live thing. It's going to be a video discussing music, okay? Because there's been a lot of controversy. Should we listen to music? Or maybe music is haram. And both of those answers are correct, okay? So I want to discuss that. And so I will do that in a video that's upcoming. And so keep your eyes open for that, where I discuss what music actually is, what it can do, how it can cause harm, and how it can actually be a benefit in different forms and different frequencies and things like that. So I'm going to say salam, goodbye for today. And thank you for coming. I hope that you found the information in the video helpful. Please share it with anyone that you think that can benefit from it. And this is part 2. So there is a part 1. Check my channel. If you like my videos, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe. Hit the bell icon so you don't miss any of my notifications when I'm on and when I post. Okay? Goodbye, salam. Have a wonderful day, everyone. You are loved.